Welcome to TopBranch, a series from the Dove Agency, where we're rooted in stability and reaching for growth. Join the Dove Agency and our special guests as we bring you expert insights and practical solutions to help your interior design business thrive. This is TopBranch. Let's grow together.
So we're here for another episode of TopBranch, and today I am so excited because I get the enjoyment and the honor of talking to Kate Janson, who you might recognize that last name. Yes, she is Ruth Ann Janson's daughter, and Kate and I had a chance to sit down together actually over the holidays with Ruth Ann, and we were chatting about things that she has learned over her just beginning of her career in the workplace and working with clients and being client facing. That is a difficult thing for somebody straight out of college to know, what are the things what are in bounds when when you're client facing, and what is the right thing to wear, and all of these questions. And it was interesting because as Kate and I talked, I also was thinking about things that I've heard from so many seasoned professionals and designers who have said, we're hiring these energetic, wonderful young men and women, but there's things that they just don't know. And we don't know how to tell them without offending them. And so I thought, let's just address it head on and just jump right in on some of those things that young professionals might need to know. Or a seasoned professional might just want to go, hey, new employee, why don't you just watch this little TopBranch and then come to me with questions. So, Kate, let's start. What surprised you most when you started your new career and you were going to be client facing? Kind of what was the biggest surprise in being in a role where you were client facing?
I would say, and then just by a little bit of introduction, I do work in finance. So I was having some experiences where I was thrown in, honestly, less than like a year into my job. Now I'm almost 2 years into my job, where I was in cars or in meetings with C-suite executives. And I think that's the most challenging thing I realized was I had to get kind of comfortable in silence sometimes. I think it's important to keep the conversation going and keep everything friendly and entertained and show that you're knowledgeable about a company you're working with or a client that you're working with. But I think it's also okay sometimes to know everyone wants a little bit of silence sometimes. Sometimes people need to check their emails, do other things at certain times. So I think I needed to get comfortable with that. And I think that's also something that would go into even when I'm in meetings with my direct manager that I work with internally and things like that. And I think that's also important to know when you're a younger professional like myself. I think that kind of goes into like a little bit of humility too, and knowing that you are not the most knowledgeable person in the room. So I think that that's also something to take into account and something that I leaned on in some of my earlier meetings, and I still do now too.
That's such a good point about being comfortable in the silence. And so when you are in those conversations with somebody that's in the C-suite or a president of a company or your client's a very important client, tell me some of the things that you felt was needed to build trust with that person, especially if they're decades older than you.
I think it can definitely depend on the job and also depends on your relationship, because some meetings I was thrown into, I had like been on the phone or like on Zoom with them, so they knew a little bit about me and who I was. But I mean, I think the number one rule goes back to, and obviously I don't work in sales, but I think knowing your client is really important, and that can go into the odds of if they're a client or if it's just like a management team you're working in, things like that. I think showing that you're knowledgeable about who they are and what they do is really important, like for their company, but also just them as a person. I think I kind of try to keep up a little bit, especially as a younger person in the workforce, with who their children are, maybe like where they go to school, if they have, where they go on vacation, things like that, that I think are easier things to bring up in conversation if it's lacking a little bit. But I think it also shows that you put in the effort to kind of know more about them and that you care about them giving you your time too.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So how do you handle it when a client asks you something you don't know the answer to? And you've already brought up humility, which I thought was a wonderful, wonderful thing to bring up. But how do you handle it when you don't know the answer?
I mean, I think that's a tough situation because you want to be able to know the answers to everything. Surely,
Mhm.
like when you get asked these sorts of questions in any industry. Um, but I think giving the answer that you don't know the answer is okay sometimes. And I think I
Mhm.
kind of will fall back on, let me follow up with that with my manager, or let
Mhm.
me look into that a little bit, or let me
Mhm.
check some of my, for me, it's usually like an Excel model or something like that. Like, let me check in and I'll get back to you, because
Mhm.
I think it's always safer to say that rather than giving them an answer that might not be full or complete, or worst case might not be true.
Right.
So I think that it's easier to lean on the safe situation with that versus kind of giving them something random just off the top of your head.
Have you ever had a client or an individual react negatively to you when you've done that? When you've just been honest and said, "Let me get back to you." Have you ever had somebody really just surprise you and be ugly about it or push back on you or anything like that?
Not necessarily. I mean, I feel like I kind of was surprised by that. I think
Hmm.
people would rather appreciate you putting in more time to get things right versus giving
Yeah.
them something quick. So I haven't necessarily had experience with that, but um I think that's, yeah, that's what I would say. I think that they definitely appreciate you putting more time into it.
That's great. So don't be scared.
Yeah.
Don't be scared to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm going to go to something a little bit more on the vanity side. You're obviously going to be talking from the female perspective, but also if you have any tips for the men that might be watching this. But what is your go-to outfit formula for when you are going to be client facing versus just a regular office day? I feel like we get asked that question all the time by young professionals.
Yes. I mean, I think it definitely depends on the role, but what's nice is that the company I work for, I'm at an investment bank, so it's actually not as buttoned up sometimes as you would think it would be, maybe more like
Mhm.
a corporate bank would be. So it's nice that sometimes I can wear like darker jeans to work with like a
Mhm.
nice work blouse or like a sweater, something like that.
Mhm.
I think it's nicer when you're comfortable and you're just at the office with your coworkers and things like that.
Mhm.
But when I'm at meetings that are client facing or with management, I'm usually in a dress with like heels too. Like I'll usually wear flats to work on like a normal day because I
Yep.
also live in a city, so you have to take commuting
Yes.
into perspective. But yes, usually when I'm with management, I'll be wearing a dress in the summer, like about knee length longer. You know the rule, when you put your hands
Yes.
down, you want it to be fingertip length, especially in a
Yes.
business setting. But yeah, when it's colder out too, it's usually dress pants, and then I think having a jacket too is great. A jacket to throw over a dress is great too. Having a collar, I think, adds a lot of extra professionalism.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's usually what I lean towards.
That's great. That's great. I know that will be a question. I bet you of this whole interview, if young professionals are watching this, they'll be flipping and saving that section of this
Yeah,
interview because we do get asked that a lot by young professionals that are
yeah,
starting. What do I wear? What's the how do I build a wardrobe, a professional
yeah,
wardrobe, et cetera. So, tell me this: how do you handle it when you get some direct feedback, maybe tough feedback? From a manager, and especially when it stings, kind of especially when you're like, oh, I'm not used to that. I'm used to being excellent in everything. How do you handle
yeah.
that feedback?
I mean, I think it's important to tell your manager too upfront. Like getting feedback is a great thing. It's
Mhm.
awesome to get positive feedback, but it's also awesome to get negative feedback or constructive
Mhm.
feedback so that you can be a better worker in general. So I feel like I kind of had to like switch my mind on that, like knowing that getting negative feedback is a good thing because we all want to be better at our job at the end of the day. So I
Mhm.
think that it's important to look at it from that way, but yeah, I think humility is a big thing. I think it's honestly should be easier too for younger people in the workforce to be more humble because you really don't know anything compared to like all the other people at your company, whether it's smaller or bigger. There's going to be people that are older than you.
Mhm.
So I think it's important to be humble and know that you're still figuring everything out. You're figuring out how to do everything the best way, whether it's processes, whether it's in person interactions with management, with clients, with even your coworkers. You're
Mhm.
still figuring out. So I think it's almost easier to be humble because you know that you don't have all the experience that everyone else does. But yes, I think telling your manager that you welcome feedback, I'm sure a lot of them probably do give feedback anyways, but just opening the door to that allows for better conversation and a better relationship with your manager. And I think it also just allows you to figure out how you're going to be a better worker. Even if you're perfect most days, there's like always something that someone can work on. So yeah, I think I've always welcomed that from my manager, and I appreciate that too.
That's great. How do you advocate for yourself, both with your coworkers and with management?
I think that can be a little bit tougher, especially as a younger professional. I think best showing that you are advocating for yourself is just showing that you're knowledgeable and also showing up on time, like checking all the boxes that you can. Because even if you're not the most tenured person there or you're not the highest up, you don't know everything that's going on. I think kind of checking those easy boxes just shows that you advocate for yourself. So yeah, being on time is important. When you're dressing, you're fitting how you dress. When you show up, you're fitting the bill there. So I think those can kind of just show how you think of yourself and how you want to present yourself, and are more important, I feel like, than I originally thought when I started working.
Those are really great points. I do think it's those small boxes. It's those kind of, like you just said, the easy boxes that sometimes, we see young professionals, they're not seeing the importance of that. And it's the big picture. You put all those little boxes together and it actually is a really big box to check off. So I appreciate you bringing that up. All right. So my last question for you is, what do you wish someone had told you before your very first client interaction?
I think it kind of goes back to dealing with silence a little bit and uncomfortableness. I think I wish someone would have told me that sometimes it's better just to be quiet, sit in the corner and observe. And I think that it can be different depending on what kind of area you're working in. I think it's definitely more prevalent in finance and like bigger business roles like that. Because it all comes back to the humility thing too. I mean, you definitely don't know everything compared to everyone else in the room. So I think I wish someone would have told me that it's probably better just to get there on time, be there, be present, show that you're listening and attentive and that you know what's going on, but you don't always need to be speaking up necessarily on certain things to be advocating for yourself. I think you can show how much confidence you have in a lot of other ways. And I think that speaking up more in like certain client meetings with management, whatever you're doing on the daily will come more with the job and as you get older. But yeah, I think that's probably what I wish I would have known.
That's great. Well, we always end these episodes with a quote. And I have a great quote, and I'm just going to say it, but this is not the quote that we're going to have for this episode, because I had a brand new quote that came to my head while we were doing this episode of Top Branch. So the quote that I had was by Eleanor Roosevelt, and it's, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." And I think that that's something that's important for young people, is to know you might not know as much, you might not be as seasoned, but it doesn't mean you're inferior. And you need to go in with confidence, and this is the quote that we're going to go with for today, because I think you've said this multiple times, and this is going to be the first time that in a Top Branch episode we have used a quote from the person that we're interviewing. But we are going to go with today's quote is just simple: be humble. And that is a quote by Kate Janson, the famous Kate Janson. So our quote today is "Be humble," and we cannot thank you enough for taking your time out of your work day and sharing this knowledge. I'm sure it will be much appreciated. So thanks again, and have a great day, everyone. We'll see you on the next Top Branch.
The Dove Agency is committed to services that ensure your financial stability and growth. As part of our dedication to the design industry, we present ID Nest, a powerful software solution for designers. Built by industry experts, it integrates financial insights, project and task management, time tracking, CRM, and marketing tools to streamline workflow and power your designs. Join us next time on Top Branch. And in the meantime, to learn more, visit idnest.com.